I was just thinking, how do you tell a good founder story? And what makes a compelling story? Why is it that some people can capture an audience and have them hanging on to every word? Is it about some type of algorithm, some type of story loops and these types of things? And why is it that sometimes someone's founder story can connect with anyone and sometimes it connects with just not you, but maybe other people? I was thinking that one of the things that I did back in the lean startup days here in Austin, this was about 2013, 14, when a lot of startup founders in the areas, they would go to South by Southwest and try to be one of those brands that kicks off. Like I think Uber launched here, a whole bunch of unicorn startups that later sold for billions of dollars or at least had several rounds of funding. And this isn't just for startups, this is for artists, people, musicians came here. There's a lot of people in town, and I'm talking about South by Southwest because it's in town right now in Austin, and I've taken the challenge to do a video every single day. So for the friends of mine who are following me and who want to do videos every day, I want to give them, and you, if you wanted to take that challenge, some guidance on if you are starting off a channel, you're starting off on social media, or you want to write a post or an email or something to your audience, how do you tell them who you are, what you do, and have them get to know you and actually care, whether you're on LinkedIn or somewhere else. And I'm gonna try to straighten up my phone here because I think it's crooked. I had to straighten it in the video last time. But what I wanna do is basically cover 3 types of founder stories. And the reason that I think people have a hard time with a founder story is that there are different types of stories that happen during different periods of your lives, and they speak to people no matter what. These are the types of stories that whether this is you who you've done it all and seen it all, or you've gone through the fire, they connect with people because they're from different parts of your lives. And I'm going to issue you a challenge that I think is going to be extremely simple, that I want you to do the very next time you make a video, and I want you to just post it, kind of like I'm doing, without much editing, without much thinking. It could be as short or as long as you want, and it's extremely simple. So that if you have a friend who's having a problem telling a founder story, an origin story, or talking about themselves, because if you're like me, you're an introvert, or you might be just that type of honest person who doesn't know what to say, you don't think there's any value of anything that you've really done that's amazing, or maybe you've done a lot of stuff and you don't want to brag. So how do you tell a story that is a founder-centered, a you-centered story that's interesting to everyone, and especially your target audience, whether you know who that target is or not? And the neighbors started mowing. I'm hoping this all works out. If not, we're just gonna roll with it, right? So here it is. The origin story is one that I think the big mistake is that people think there's only one origin story of who you are. And in some people, they go way back from the beginning and they chronologically just talk about the history of who they are, what they've done. And it's this up and down story that you might see a director might do or someone might tell you. But I think there's very short origin stories. And I'm gonna just jump right into it. I took some notes today in church. I was writing down because we've been talking about gifts, spiritual gifts, and I have been obsessed with it because I like understanding the talents that people bring to the world and what's unique and different about each person. And one of the things I thought about with is a story type that I taught to startups back at Cap Factory. There was like 100 of us in the room. It was standing room, and I got a standing ovation at the end of talking about storytelling. And I talked about 3 types of stories. I'll tell you what they are right now: origin story, outlaw story, and a phoenix story. You might already know kind of in general what they are, but how do you tell them? So the first type of story, and I'll go maybe the next several days, since I'm trying to do a video a day, I'll give you an example of each one and what you need to do, but I'll give you a really quick example of what they are and the difference and the thoughts that I had after coming back from today's service. The first one, the origin story, I was actually thinking, and I wrote it down here, that is actually a story about stepping into your gifts. It's about you're going through life, and this could be as young as possible or as old as possible. But have you noticed at some point you were feeling empty and like you had a higher calling or purpose? Something that you wanted to do in life, something that you wanted to achieve, and you maybe didn't know how, but maybe either saw someone else do it and thought, that could be me. Now there's a negative thought that'll come in and it'll say, nah, not you, not right now, you're not ready. It'll tell you that. That's how you kind of know that's the start of something good, is because immediately there'll be something that says you're not good enough, you're not ready yet, or you can't. But there's the word of, in my case, what I believe is the word of God that is saying, yes, you can. And it'll sound crazy. It'll be like, no, I can't be that artist. I can't give that speech. I can't be this star or this person that steps out on stage. I can't be that person to make a video. That's impossible, right? And really what it is I think that that's when you have decided to step into your gifts, because you will feel compelled inside to do something that seems like you shouldn't or couldn't, that was impossible, or even people told you you were bad at. but you do it anyway. And I'll give you an example, and I'm going to give you a cheat for how to do it. So one of my origin stories was actually, it's when you're changing your beliefs. And one of the things that I was telling, as you tell stories to people in your life, there's times they're going to lean in and say, that was amazing. And it's going to seem so small to you because it's just something that happened in your life. And I was recently telling someone about a time when I was a child and our apartment burned down. My parents were only 17 and 19 years old when they had us. And so when I was 6, I had pretty young parents. And they could only afford an apartment in the, quote, ghetto, the bad side of town. But it was my home and it was safe inside my house. And because my parents always made me feel loved, which is the one ingredient that some people feel that they're missing in life, is parents who actually really love them. So no matter what, my parents would constantly say, I love you, and we're here for you, because their parents, maybe they didn't feel that, but they felt compelled to always do that for me. Well, one night we woke up and someone was knocking and banging loudly on our door. I thought it was another fight, that maybe the neighbors were fighting or something was going on. But then my dad ran in and wanted us to get out of the house and rush out of the house. And it's because the apartment complex was on fire. One of the other neighbors, there was some type of, either in their kitchen, and obviously when you share an apartment, you share a roof. So the whole place was in flames, and I didn't know how bad it was, but the smoke was starting to build. And so I'm 6 years old. We wake up out of bed and you literally have time to grab each other and maybe one thing. And I'll tell you the one thing that I grabbed that I still have to this day. And I bet you have something that you've had in your life for a long time that you can tell an amazing story about. But during this time, a lot of people might have thought that they would be traumatized and maybe afraid of fire, those types of things. And this could have been a traumatizing moment. But the thing that I was thinking about today at service was actually that was one of the best moments in my life. And the reason is because instead of being afraid, I was able to talk about it, number one, to my parents while we stayed in like an apartment. I don't know if they had an apartment insurance, but we were moved to a hotel for what seemed like months at the time. We lost everything completely. Our video games, my parents didn't have much, but they saved up and tried to do a lot for us, things that they didn't have, good Christmases that they never had, for example. So all of my toys were gone. All of our clothing had smoke, it was soot. We went back to our house and really saw the devastation. People were looting. And this could have been a time where I was afraid of humanity. But the reason I remember it with a smile is because I remember the first time that I had an interaction with the police and firefighters and kind people. The Red Cross was there, and it's where I saw the origin of how I see humanity. I saw not the people who were looting and stealing from us, not the fire and the devastation, but I saw the woman who saved our life by knocking on neighbors' doors. I saw the police officers who held me in their arms as we were getting in the car, telling me it'll be okay, don't be afraid, little girl. I saw the firefighters who were running into a blazing building that was on fire, this 300 whatever unit apartment complex, that it was all taken out, and the devastation. I saw kindness. And I saw the birth of something in me that said, this is what the world was like. Kind people who are loving to strangers. And even though we were in our apartment, we were in a hotel room, my dad would always say, we're blessed because we have each other. He could have been complaining. He could have said, what am I going to do to rebuild? We lost everything. One thing, when your kids or someone around you goes through trauma, that affects them for the rest of their life. So instead of saying, this is devastating, what are we going to do? And worrying, they were obviously worried, but what they would tell us every night is how blessed we are. And he would point out that police officer that gave you the doll, that volunteer who hugged you and gave you water. He would point out the blessings in life. And I, from that day, do that every single time something bad happens to me. When I've been in car wrecks, when planes were delayed, when anything, you lost a job, something bad happened to you, instilled in that little girl the origin of hope. Is what that was. And that's a belief that I've taken with me. That's a story that I can tell anyone. That simple story of hope. I believe origin stories aren't about where you are and where you're from and some product you made. It's about the origin of a belief. That is what an origin story is. And that is a story that you can tell today. And that's the first of the 3 types of stories. There's the outlaw story and the phoenix story that I'll cover because I think I'm running out of time. I don't want to go too long in each of these videos. But it's called the This Old Thing Challenge. This old thing, I realized that one of the reasons we can't tell nowadays that something is AI is because AI tends to do things that make sense, and human beings, the things we keep, don't make any sense. So I'm going to show you this. Let me make sure I'm still recording. This is the one thing that I kept from that fire. If this was AI, this would make no sense because this is a baby Snoopy from 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, that I've kept from move to move and from house to house. I got this product. If you were to show a product or a book or something that touched your life and you held it up and told your audience just a simple story about it. For example, the day that I got this was when it was snowing in San Antonio, Texas on a Christmas, like somewhere around Christmas, and we didn't have to go back to school. And my parents this Christmas got me this baby Snoopy. I actually wanted a different one, but they got me this one. It was the cutest thing in the world. His nose is falling off. He's been dirty and washed. I've had it my entire life, and no matter where I've lived in my life, I've taken this with me. There's something in your closet, in your attic, a picture, a jacket, some type of memorabilia that you can tell a story about right now. This was the only thing that I saved from that fire besides myself, and this has helped me have comfort throughout my life. And the reason this Snoopy was the one thing I grabbed, I will tell a whole nother story about, but it was one of the few times in my life where my mom, who had a lot of depression and anxiety, was happy. And the pictures that we had has her with a big smile on her face, me with a snowman in San Antonio, Texas, which is like always 100 degrees during the summer. It actually snows every 20 years here in South Texas. But this is the one thing that I saved. And this is the one thing, the type of story that AI can't beat. This is a story of a product or something that you have, a jacket, something that you can have that'll bring you a smile and joy that you can tell a story about. And that's the origin of a belief that you have about the world, something that saved you, that gave you this hope that you didn't know you had, a talent. Maybe it was a contest that you won where you first learned, I am an artist. I am a good speaker. I can do this. I can make good grades. Or maybe, you know what, I don't need to make good grades because I helped someone today. So that is what an origin story is. It's the origin of you and your belief about the world that no matter what, it's going to connect with people. And that's the difference between some story where you're talking about a product. And this is a part of the 6P, the storytelling system, but this is the person. I said in that it's a person, problem, promise, and then there's other things. But the person, people want to know, who are you as a person? D is a person who believes in hope. I believe in people. I believe in kindness. And so the stories of kindness, of people being generous to me in my life, is a story that anyone can connect with, and it'll bring a smile to your face and make you feel natural on camera. So I would tell you to take the This Old Thing challenge. Grab anything around your house, anything that you've drawn, anything you've created, a book you've read, something that the older the better, because it takes you back to a time where you maybe weren't as beaten down and you didn't have, looking back, all these negatives about it. You have something that brings you pure joy. It could be a necklace or some type of family heirloom. It could be anything. And then just tell a story about it to your audience. And just know that there are different origin stories in our life that tell us who we are and tell us who we think the world is. And that's what people are going to connect with. And so I hope that has helped you with what is an origin story. How do I develop an origin story? And why don't you just start small with telling one story about one thing and one belief that you believe in about the world that has helped shape you as a human being. At the very least, you will help someone else like I've hopefully helped you today. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut this video and talk about the next two stories, and I will see you in the next video where we talk about your outlaw story and your phoenix story. I've also grabbed some old things, and I'm going to be showing you kind of what I would say about those things. And hopefully if you want to do a 30-day challenge, something like that, you can go ahead and do that. And I'm going to be publishing all this on my Substack, which I'll link below. I'm going to be growing my Grounded Growth Lab stories, teaching storytelling, types of stories to tell, the things I figured out about life. I'm reading the Bible, which is a book full of stories, but I want to understand why they work and how they relate to my life and potentially your life. So I will see you in the next video.